Molo Chair,
Hayi Chi, kunjani?
siyaphila inkosi njani?
Ndiyaphila khona ndisazama useta up ke le fowuni ndifuna ujonga uba ndisebenzisa
Aha.
ifowuni i-iPad yam imoshakele.
Hayi ukliye kodwa and uvakala kakuhle.
Oh, okay ke sisa, we have
Yeah.
to check. We just arrived now from eParliament kwi-caucus.
Okay, okay, okay.
Sine-caucus, yeah, I think nabanye ke like u-Honorable Nalumang.
Oh, I'm sure
Just,
bazawube join us soon. At least
yeah,
isenexesha. In about nine
yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right, ke inkosi.
You can just check
Mm-hmm.
Honorable Marcus.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be able to join. Sure. Okay, sis.
All right, good dear. Thanks.
Sure. Afternoon, members.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, members.
Afternoon, Chair. Afternoon.
Okay, I wanted to check if you can hear me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Chair, we can hear
Am I
you.
clear? Oh, okay. Chilenga, I want to check whether all members have logged in.
Not all of them, Chair. I only have 4 on the platform. At least I need
You only
2
have
more
4
to
of us.
join. Yes, at
You
least
need
if we're
2
out
more to
6,
join.
then we'll be constituting the.
Um,
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, can you check on others? Honorable Mkize and Honorable Dr. Managa, and also
All right.
Honorable Maka.
Oh, Mkize just joined.
So we
Let me
need 1 to make
check.
the
Yeah,
quorum.
yes. Let me check Honorable Managa. Thanks, Chair.
Okay then. Okay, just few minutes, members, then we will start. We just need to make the quorum.
Honorable Makasi will join shortly, Chair.
Okay, noted, Honorable Nalumango.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Could someone just confirm that I'm audible?
Yes, you are audible, Honorable de Block. Chair?
Yes, you.
Yes, Honorable Managa is struggling to join.
Is it?
Yes, so I will assist her, but we are correcting now. If you are ready, we can proceed. I'll flag the agenda.
Oh, okay. Agenda key for us. Okay. Good afternoon, members, and everyone who is in the platform. This is a continuation of our 3-day workshop that we had at Kirstenbosch. This is our 3rd day. I am going to request Honorable de Block to do welcoming remarks for us. Thank you, Honorable de Block. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. I'll turn my video on so you can see that although we're not together in Parliament, I'm still in Parliament.
Yes, we can see you.
Good. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to thank the Chair, thank our fellow members of the committee, and our presenters today for making the time. This is day 3. I think we're all getting a good grip of the length and breadth of this full department, as well as some of the challenges. And I think the scale of work and responsibility that is on our shoulders is becoming apparent. I'm very happy to see that everyone on the committee is applying themselves. We have a wonderful work ethic between us, a wonderful way of working. I'd like to thank the Chair for her role in creating such an effective team, as well as our assistant personnel for the committee, the secretary, the researcher, and others. So Yes, thank you for the wonderful platform that's been laid. I hope we'll have another productive session today. It's a shorter one, so I'm sure we're going to be able to cope. And yeah, maybe have a wonderful day and maybe set a platform for some legacy defining work that we will do as a committee over the next 5 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Diplog, for your welcoming remarks. I did not get any indication of apologies, Chilega. So we'll now proceed with our agenda. We are going to have a presentation from the Presidential Climate Commission. After that, it will be questions and answers, and followed by the presentation by the Parliamentary Legal Services. And that will also be followed by questions and answers. So we'll start, Chilega, are they ready? Are they with us in the meeting? The
Yes,
Presidential
they are
Climate
ready.
Commission?
Yes, they are ready.
Okay. Okay, they will indicate who is going to lead the presentation over to them. Can they also switch off their videos when they are speaking? Thank you very much. Over to you,
Mr. Ngumalo.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon, honorable members. All protocol observed. My name is Dumisani Ngumalo. I'm with the Presidential Climate Commission Secretariat in the role of Acting Chief Operations Officer. I'm joined by my colleague, Mr. Blessing Manale, who heads our communication, who's also in the call. Maybe he just wants to say hi as well.
Thank you very much, Dumisani. Good afternoon, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Blessing Manale. I'm the executive responsible for consensus building, communications and outreach in the Presidential Climate Commission, and I look forward to the engagement with the committee. Thank you very much.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you very much. We also tender apologies from our Executive Director, Chair, who was keen to join the session, but unfortunately has had other commitments taking him away. We are going to present, Chair, as per the agenda on our mandate, business plan, how far we are with establishment processes, as well as the annual report. And we do note also the presence of our future principal, Mr. Maisela Kekana from the DFFE, who will also bear witness to some of the conversations here. Thank you. I will just flight my presentation now. I hope you can see it.
Yes, we can see it, Mr. Ngumalo.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm gonna shoot straight to it. So in 2018, Chair, during the Presidential Job Summit engagement, there were social partners recommended for the establishment of a statutory body to essentially coordinate South Africa's just transition, and they recommended that such a statutory body be led in the office of the President. And in September 2020, Cabinet in the 6th Administration approved the terms of reference for PCC to essentially be established to provide advice around climate response and the just transition. And in 2020, December, it was actually the 17th of December, the President then appointed commissioners and the commission broadly, comprising of 10 cabinet ministers, and this was with a strong focus on the economic cluster portfolios, and 22 representatives, Chair, from business, labor, civil society, and science organizations. The President chairs the PCC, and which has a non-executive status as a presidential advisory body. So we exist in the as a proclamation from the President until such a time that the Climate Change Act has also been proclaimed into law, and this we'll talk to later on. The DFFE and the DPME Chair, as part of the terms of reference that were approved by Cabinet, were also mandated to provide institutional support to the PCC, and we'll speak to some of this later on. The I just quoted the President's SONA address of 2023, Chair, here where he emphasizes in particular really what we are set out to do, that the Presidential Climate Commission really is set out to guide much of the work around, new model for inclusive and collective decision-making, incorporating the individual workers and communities that are most affected in the transition. Chair, our work is really around providing insights, which is essentially us mobilizing the science, providing the evidence base to support the better decision-making by social partners about the climate transition. We also are about inclusion, and here, Chair, we forge consensus between social partners and stakeholders to build support around the just transition policy and action. And we look at these two I's, Chair, as leading to the impact, which is the third I, around supporting the implementation by convening partners, building capacity, as well as providing the necessary M&E and advice where action falls short. And you will see some of this when we speak to some of our outputs that we've delivered. The Commission, Chair, is currently structured, or the way we work, we have the Commission, and then the Commission is supported by 4 working groups. One that deals with net zero topics, another that deals with adaptation and resilience, climate finance, and M&E. And within these, obviously, you have distilled particular work pieces that these working groups then process on a quarterly basis. Like the net zero working group focuses specifically on the emissions trajectory linked to our NDC and the carbon budget works that the DFFE team also leads. The energy mix and coal decommissioning work. We'll also look at the green economy and jobs topics around this working group. Adaptation and resilience also focuses specifically on the risks aspect linked to climate change, looking at the adaptation investment that's required, the early warning system and disaster response mechanisms that we are needed to think about as part of responding to climate change and transitioning in a just manner to a low carbon and climate resilient economy and society. We also have climate finance, Chair, that's concerned about tracking the flows, looking at how we can support local government projects from a financing point of view, looking at the broader just transition finance topic. So here you'll also see one of our recommendations talking to just financing mechanisms that we've proposed. And we also look at the technology aspect, the technology that's necessary for us to deliver against our climate change objectives. We also have an M&E working group, Chair, that tracks basically and reports against the climate action that has been taken across the country. And it has also adopted some ad hoc work topic around looking at the Komati decommissioning work, and which we've made also recommendations around. I'm going to move on, Chair, to speak to the Climate Change Act. Recently, Chair, in July, the President promulgated, or at least assented into law, the Climate Change Act, or the Climate Change Bill, which is now recognized as the Climate Change Act, Act number 22 of 2024, which basically makes specific provisions for PCC. In particular, it establishes PCC as a Schedule 3 public entity, which is an independent and impartial statute. And this is obviously still subject to proclamation into law through a gazette by President. So that is the key that will essentially operationalize this Climate Change Act and will enable some of the processes that are linked to the establishment of the PCC. The President, through the Act, will be expected to appoint not more than 25 commissioners from government, organized labor, civil society, traditional leaders, SALGA, and business. Here, the amendment, which is slightly different from the initial appointment, is the addition of traditional leaders, as well as SALGA in particular. And here the process will be based on public nominations. Ministers who previously were appointed as commissioners, the 10 ministers that I spoke to are now no longer in the commission, but will be invited to attend specific meetings depending on the relevant portfolio that they are leading and the discussion in the commission, Chair. The function remains to advise on South Africa's climate change response and the just transition to low carbon and climate resilient economy and society. The commissioners are appointed over a term of 5 years, which is renewable only for one term for institutional business continuity and institutional memory point of view. And then the commission is also delegated or given the powers to set up committees, Chair, adopt its rules, code of conduct, including rules for removal of commissioners. So there is an opportunity for the commission to define its own, rules of engagement. The minister, according to the bill, will be responsible also for appointing the ED as an accounting officer. Chair, who will in turn appoint the secretariat. And the PCC, through the minister DFFE, will also then be responsible for submitting its reports, studies, plans, and recommendations to the National Assembly, in particular to this portfolio committee, and on request to both the minister and the president. We currently have the commission supported by the secretariat, and the secretariat is structured or is led by the executive director, with 24 permanent posts, which are currently, in an interim phase. We report in the interim to the deputy chair of the commission, who in turn then reports to the president. The financial accountability, as approved by cabinet chair, is currently under NEDLAC within the budget vote of the Department of Employment and Labor. So we account currently through NEDLAC to the Department of Employment and Labor, who in turn then accounts to Parliament. The shift will obviously now happen as a result of the Climate Change Act to DFFE Minister once the PCC has been fully established as the public entity. The Secretariat Chair, what you'd recognize is it's structured across the three I's that I spoke to earlier on, where research and policy focus really on insights, basically gathering the evidence. The institutional support is really about mobilizing, the impact, as well as the comms and outreach is really about, inclusion and making sure that we engage on our business. So that's the Secretariat. We have the following operational matters that we thought we should highlight to the committee. Obviously, as I said, the commission meets quarterly in person at Constitution Hill, and what we, in the spirit of transparency, Chair, what we do, we also live stream our meetings both on our website and on Facebook, so our meetings are quite accessible. And from time to time, we have youth participation who usually come in person and participate in the meetings through observation. The meetings are obviously convened and chaired by the deputy chair on behalf of the chairperson, who's the president, and the commission makes recommendations to the president on his request, and on our own initiative. We also take the liberty to make recommendations on particular topics linked to our mandate. Cabinet, as I said in the previous slide, approved the interim arrangements to house the PCC Secretariat at NEDLAC as Program 4. So this is under the Department of Employment and Labor budget vote. The statutory reporting and accounting is therefore done through NEDLAC, as I indicated, including our APP reporting that goes through via NEDLAC. We also, Chair, have a fiscal hosting arrangement for our donor funds through an institution called the African Climate Foundation, which has played a critical role really in supporting our establishment processes in the interim stage. And we continue to use that facility as we exhaust some of our current donor allocations. We have a mirror structure which we look at as our audit and risk committee, which we call the Finance and Governance Committee, and it conducts oversight on our finances, as well as the operational systems. So it also meets quarterly and it reports directly to the Commission on a quarterly basis. And it also processes, some of the, I would say, critical finance processes and programs of the organization, including reporting to the Commission on areas of risk and governance matters. The committee is also chaired by an independent finance expert who has been appointed by the Commission. I've already spoken to the 4 working groups, but essentially this is where the deep or at least the detailed engagements around the work program happens before it's tabled to the Commission, and the working group chairs then table the substantive work pieces of the PCC to the Commission during the quarterly meetings, and they are then discussed, adopted if the commissioners agree on the subject matters. Around governance matters, as the Climate Change Act has been promulgated into law, although not yet proclaimed, the presidency has extended the term of some of the commissioners to basically 5 years, and these were the commissioners who were appointed linked to the 6th administration, which was not really full 5 years because some were only appointed early last year. So this has been then extended to basically cover the full 5 years in line with the bill. We currently sit with some vacancies from Eskom owing to the institutional changes at Eskom, the Center for Environmental Rights because of a resignation there, and from COSATU. And the deputy chair has also indicated, an interest to basically step down and in line and get a new deputy chair in line with the new administration. And these are sort of processes that we've also flagged and that are raising with the Commission. There is a feasibility study and business case that we've done, Chair, to basically support the establishment of the PCC as a public entity, and this I'll speak to later on. It is subject to DFFE's further processing with the relevant government departments, which includes the National Treasury and the DPSA. We have currently an interim organogram, which basically guides the interim arrangement and has been approved by the Finance and Governance Committee. In line with our current hosting at NETLEC, it also had needed to be approved and endorsed by the NETLEC governance structures. So that organogram that I spoke to earlier on exists on the basis of that. We also concluded a 3-year business plan, which has specific targets linked to the NETLEC strategic plan, as well as the NETLEC APP Sinzoa program of NETLEC. Speaking specifically to the PCC targets, which are contained under the NETLEC's APP, Chair, we have 3 sort of performance indicators that we're needing to fulfill, and these are again in line with the 3 I's that I spoke to earlier on. This is a recommendation or policy recommendation performance indicator, where we're expected to deliver 2 documents incorporating policy recommendations and making sure that those are then adopted by the PCC. We also have 2 scientific recommendations, what we call loosely also as technical reports, where we're not necessarily taking a position on a particular subject matter, but we're simply just making information available from a technical or from a research point of view for further engagement. And then we have what we call stakeholder engagement reports, which we are also expected to submit. And these usually arise from identified a series of public dialogues, which are produced within 30 days of the last dialogue session, and they are also uploaded on our website. Generally, in terms of the policy recommendation step, we essentially do the scientific or the technical reports, and those usually lead to a discussion which is engaged through this series of stakeholder engagements, and that then results usually into a policy recommendation, which is really the apex document of the commission that the commission produces, which then is also handed over to the president in the form of a PCC output and recommendation for president's consideration. These are the 5 PCC outcomes, Chair, that have been sort of outlined in our business plan. So in addition to the NETLEX, high-level annual performance plan, we also have individualized, or at least a much more elaborated business plan, which contains all these 4 outcomes. And the 4 outcomes really are around enabling conditions for enabling conditions, making sure that the enabling conditions are established for the implementation of a just transition, and that the foundations are in place also for long-term climate resilience and adaptation. That is outcome 2. The outcome 3 focuses really around the net zero pathways being identified and supported, the financial and technological resources being mobilized to achieve the transition, a just transition, as well as then outcome 5, which is really an internally focused outcome in a way, because it deals with the PCC's effectiveness in fulfilling its mandate and addressing the complex and systematic nature of climate transition. So if you like, Chair, if you think of the 4 working groups plus the Finance and Governance Committee, we have the 4 working groups allocated across the 4 outcomes, and we also have then the Finance and Governance Committee looking specifically at outcome 5, which is where we deal a lot with our internal processes. Here, outcome 1 looks at enabling conditions for implementation of a just transition, and here it's about the public dialogues and engagements that we lead to basically forge some unity of purpose and collective action around the just transition. We also, in this very same sort of outcome, have an output around the implementation of the just transition. This is obviously talking to our 2024 business plan, but it implements the just transition framework that was articulated and delivered as part of our 2022-2023 business plan when we first landed our recommendation on the just transition framework. We also have economic diversification and employment work program or output that we're expected to deliver under this outcome. We also look at labor markets and social protection measures that we need to be thinking about as part of the transition, and we are also expected to learn the recommendations around this. In fact, as part of the work that we're needing to deliver, we have a work piece around employment strategy, which I'll speak to later on. And then this very same outcome, Chair, also looks at the PCC's progress against the just transition targets that we have set out partly on the just transition framework. Outcome 2 looks at making sure that the foundations are in place for long-term climate change or climate resilience and adaptation. Here, Chair, it's really the physical and climate risks as well as risk management strategies which are associated with the changing climate, which that really is part of our output 1. We also look at the climate resilient and inclusive development pathways that we need to be thinking about, and sorry for the typo there, but essentially it's pathways leading to the 2050 mark. And we also look at the local climate resilient programs in priority regions that we're needing to be supporting. And here we're talking to regions such as the Eastern Cape. From an auto sector point of view, we're talking to regions such as Mpumalanga from a coal bed point of view, and KZN who continue to bear a serious brunt around climate change. We also look at resources that needs to be mobilized for adaptation and resilience. as part of outcome 2. So the investment plan that I was talking to earlier on as part of the working groups. We also have a net zero pathway outcome, Chair, making sure that these pathways are identified and supported. And again, they also have the same time point of 2050. And here we're looking at recommendations on the energy mix and governance, which we've already made. So output 3.1 has been delivered. And I'll speak to that later on. And then we also look at development of low carbon development pathways to 2050, which is work in progress that we're continuously improving. And then we also, look at links with the scientific community or the science community, making sure that that is established to inform how we think about the net zero pathways. And here, Chair, we convene a group of community of practice of like-minded scientists who are engaged in the exploration of the net zero pathways to 2050. Outcome 4 around the financial and technological resources, Chair, which basically needs to be mobilized to achieve the just transition, looks specifically around, the appropriately blended climate finance that needs to be deployed at the right scale and at the right time to basically finance the various mitigation and adaptation activities, as well as just transition measures to basically enable and support the transition. Part of this activity also does a lot of stock take of South Africa's technologies with the potential to localize into, transition value chains. And then outcome 5, which I did say that it was an internal facing outcome in a way, looks at the, the governance issues, risk management processes of the institution, and making sure that we operate in a sound institutional setup. We also are responsible for looking at, a fully capacitated and well-functioning secretariat as part of this output, and also putting the necessary systems, policies, and processes to enable the performance and function and effective functioning of this team or the secretariat, which then supports the commission. We also look at enabling or a PCC that effectively mobilizes public and private resources to support its activities. And this was much more important, Chair, during this interim phase, where we have not yet been fully established into law and therefore could not be fully funded by government and had to rely on both government resources as well as private resources in the form of donors. Excuse me, Chair. And the last one looks at the communication, both with the public and as well as specific stakeholders that we work with from time to time in the various work programs that we deliver against. The PCC outputs can be ranked in this format, Chair. So there is one, for instance, the apex recommendation of the policy recommendations of the PCC are really the apex output that we deliver as an organization. But generally, we also have things like the annual report, which is approved by the Finance and Governance Committee. As I said earlier on, the recommendations are adopted and endorsed or approved by the full commission. We also have technical reports or scientific reports, as we referred them earlier on, which are then approved by the relevant working groups. We issue briefs from time to time, which really are just discussion papers that are usually approved by the executive director. And they do, from time to time, serve in the working groups as just part of an oversight process. We also issue media statements, which are then, approved by Mr. Blessing Manale, who's in this call, with the consultation and oversight by the ED or the executive director and the deputy chair from time to time. And we also engage on written comments on different, legislation prescripts or policy prescripts, which are issued by different government departments and have a bearing on the just transition or the overall climate agenda. And there we do engage with some written comments to basically strengthen those processes. Like I said earlier on, The way we engage our work, just to arrive at a particular recommendation, we are making a demonstration here of the Just Transition Framework to say we essentially engage it, we mobilize the science or we engage the evidence. We subject the evidence to thematic dialogues with various stakeholders to basically test the science, and if there's anything that is being missed by the project team, that is then synthesized and prepared into a draft framework, which is then subjected to community dialogues. So, Chair, we not only engage at boardroom level, but we go as far as community locations to basically subject our thinking, both from stakeholders, but also from the research that we are doing, to various community contexts, as well as get then the different community perspectives, and come back and subject that revised draft to a public commenting process. And in this case, because it was really the biggest milestone work of the PCC, we subjected this framework to a multi-stakeholder conference, which was convened on the 5th and the 6th of May, and adopted these Just Transition Framework recommendations, which have now been adopted by Cabinet into government policy, and these were landed in July 2022. But essentially, this is the process that we generally follow when we deliver on the recommendations. And to date, Chair, we've managed to deliver on the following recommendations. We kicked off with the current updated NDC of South Africa up to 2030, where we made a specific recommendation around the emission trajectory of up to for 2025 as well as up to 2030. And then this was followed by the Just Transition Framework, which I just spoken to now. We also made recommendations following the President's request on the 4th of November meeting that was convened just on the eve of COP27, Chair, asking us to basically make recommendations at the then Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, which was concluded by the Presidential Climate Finance Task Team. And here, Chair, we made recommendations, and we come to learn now of what we have as a country, which is the implementation plan of this investment plan led by the presidency, and we continue to engage the team from a critique point of view, positive critique that is, around the JETP overall. These three recommendations were really well received by the relevant government departments and the president. Until we then made, the electricity plan recommendations, which faced a little bit of, pushback, but essentially they were also delivered to the necessary government department. We then followed up, Chair, with the Komati decommissioning recommendations, where we looked at the situation in Komati and what had transpired as part of the decommissioning process. And we are since following up this work, Chair, and I'll speak to that slide later on, basically to enable the implementation of our recommendation. We are following it up with a particular work program. And in November 2023, again, we made available information around climate finance. We made public the climate finance tracking report, which basically gives a very strong, compelling picture and outline of where we stand as it relates to the climate finance flows in South Africa. And what was of particular interest here is that we actually are domestically funding our own climate finance work, with at least 90% of our climate finance coming from the domestic finance environment. So that was just quite an interesting observation from this report, although a large majority of it is still going to mitigation, but there is at least some patriotic element to how we are financing our own climate transition. We then recently made comments on the draft IRP, which we've also delivered to the department in the previous administration, to the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. And we've also pronounced on the social ownership of renewable energy, Chair, recognizing that the recommendation around the just transition framework was also anchored around the three principles, which amongst others included the principle of distributive justice. And here we were saying that the ownership or the way we are thinking about, the generation of energy into the future, we need not look at it from private ownership only, but we also need to think about how other social partners could play a role in the ownership of renewable energy. And here we've proposed 4 models that could be looked at around the social ownership of renewable energy. Chair, we've recently made some compelling arguments around how we think the financing environment needs to change to accommodate the just transition. And here it's our articulation of the just transition financing mechanism, which we've recently concluded on July 22nd. And we got a very encouraging letter from the President, which I'm happy to share, basically recognizing the importance of these recommendations in enabling at scale the financing of the just transition and overall climate transition, Chair. Like I said, we also take a step back and from time to time look at the state of climate action report. And here we landed our first recommendation, basically looking at the climate action, where climate action falls short and what are some of the challenges, which of prominence was the issue of policy synergy, or the synergistic nature of policies that needs to be aligned basically for climate action to be possible in this country. And then, as I said, I spoke about the committee recommendations. So following our committee report, which we made to the President last year, Chair, in December, and he received it on the 10th of December, Eskom has appointed an implementing agency for Component C to basically look at how we can mobilize some resources. And here, Chair, we've also mobilized the Social Employment Fund to support the creation of short-term work opportunities. And the PCC has also initiated monthly meetings with Eskom, the then Department of Public Enterprise, which will now engage through the presidency, the DFFE, as well as the Mpumalanga provincial government, and some local government players and donors to basically see how we can best align and coordinate on activities. We've also set up a few work streams, which I'll just highlight here, which basically seeks to look at issues of planning, seeks to look at issues of investment, as well as, how we then mobilize the different financial resources to enable those plans to be realized, as well as keeping, communication and coordination and engagements alive in the region, including monitoring and evaluation. So part of what we also plan to do is to undertake a one-year review of progress that has been made since the PCC's report recommendations around the decommissioning of Komati. This is quite an important template, Chair, to basically support the future decommissioning processes in this country. And if we can find a way to basically address this corrective step, I think we'll be setting ourselves up for success in future decommissioning projects. The following, Chair, is just a few priority work pieces that are nearly complete and will obviously serve as PCC recommendations, and some of them I've already spoken to earlier, like the employment opportunities in Mpumalanga. Here we're exploring a particular juristic strategy around employment opportunities in Mpumalanga. And here we're looking specifically at the coal belt, and we're discussing with stakeholders to see what sort of strategies can be employed to basically pursue the various opportunities in the coal belt within the current context, but also in particular in the context of the transition. The proposal on the design of the climate change response fund, you'll remember that the President in his SONA announcement also made pronouncements around the Climate Change Response Fund. And here, Chair, we're looking at the concept to basically propose the design, how that fund should look like, and how that fund should mobilize resources, and where the resources needs to flow as it relates to the different affected parts of our community or social infrastructure. And here, Chair, we plan to conclude these first two recommendations, or at least table them for discussion in the September Commission meeting. And once concluded, we'll obviously hand them over to the Presidency and the DFFE. And as it relates to, particular support to local government, which I spoke to under the Climate Finance Working Group, we are also looking at building a project pipeline through a municipal jet support program. And this is in partnership with the SALGA. In particular, this partnership was forged also in a mayoral engagement with the mayors through a mayor's dialogue, which then gave birth to this project. And we also have COPTA and the Jet IP PMU office in the Presidency as partners in this project. We've completed the readiness assessment with the 10 municipalities, and what we are gearing up to here now is looking at this particular pipeline for financing, which we'll then also discuss with the DBSA, and engage accordingly for resource mobilization. You also asked for the review of the PCC's performance in the past financial year, Chair. And this we've provided through a link, just for purposes of discussion. I thought we should just share the link so members have the opportunity to then engage this particular report of 2023, as well as the report of 2022, which are also on the same link. Here, Chair, we're calling it an annual review because
you can drink water, Mr. Numa. You can drink water.
Sorry?
You can have a sip of water. I can see that your mouth is drying up. You can drink water.
Thank you, Chair. No, thank you very much, Chair. So here, the PCC annual review report, we're calling it the review report because we're not yet a fully established public entity. So we don't necessarily have an obligation to do a report. And we do the actual report through NEDLEC, which we've done over the past 2 years since we joined NEDLEC. So if you want to see the governance aspects, which are necessarily required as part of the statutory reporting, that is done through NEDLEC. But here, Chair, we capture in much more detail, the key highlights of our work, and where we've also, been receiving donor support or broadly support to deliver on our work, and what the key achievements have been. So this is the report that we then, deliver, and is processed by the Commission and submitted to the President. And then, Chair, as I conclude, I thought I should also just highlight to the committee the process that concerns the listing of the PCC. What's key here is to understand that the Climate Change Act has not yet been proclaimed into law, meaning it's not yet operational. And not only that, there also are regulations that needs to be developed by the DFFE to basically, regulate the PCC and operationalize some of the clauses on the sections of the Climate Change Act. And those have not been, developed yet. And the process is in place to basically develop that, led by the DFFE, Chair. The following steps needs to be sort of engaged. And the first two have been, engaged informally with the National Treasury. And this is linked to the guidelines that are provided for through the Department of Public Service and Administration. And the guidelines simply say we must consult with the National Treasury, and this is a DG to DG engagement, prepare the necessary business case for PCC's establishment. And then we should also look as part of step 3, we should then look at assessing, the business case, obtaining the National Treasury or Public Service and Administration approval. These two steps, Chair, I left subject to because I wanted to say this step 3 and 4 will only happen once we have the regulations in place, once also the proclamation of the Act has been concluded by the President. So we'll then be able to implement step 3 and 4. And then step 5 is concerned around obtaining cabinet approval for the establishment of the entity, following which then gives rise to the parliamentary processes and requirements for which this committee will be privy to and will have to engage to support that engagement process, that establishment process. And then step 7 is around then formalizing fully through the National Treasury PFMA processes, the establishment of the entity and implementing that establishment process as part of step 8. So this includes budget, vote, and linked processes. And then lastly, Chair, I must just say on behalf of the Commission, the Secretariat team, we really appreciate the chance to brief the committee on our work, and we look forward to your leadership and guidance in continuing to fulfill our mandate. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ngomalo, for your presentation. I'm going to switch off my video because my phone keeps on saying my connection is poor. You can also switch your video off, Mr. Ngomalo.
Sure.
I'm not sure that my side. Honorable members, that is the presentation from the PCC. I am going to note hands. I already see the head of Honorable de Block. Can the members who wants to speak raise their show of hands? Manaka. Number 1 is de Block. Second one is Manaka. Chileka, please assist me because I'm using a phone. I see Honorable Nalumango. Honorable, okay. I'll just move with these few hands, then I will check if there's other hands. I'll start with you, Honorable de Block, followed by, I saw Honorable Manaka raising the hand. I don't know if she just disappeared. Honorable Ronaldo will be the second one. And then, oh, Honorable Manaka is back.
I didn't disappear, Chair.
Is it? Okay,
Yes.
okay, I'm sorry. It's Honorable de Block, followed by Honorable Managa, Honorable Ronaldo. Just so that Honorable Makase sent me a WhatsApp. I don't know, maybe she's got a problem with raising her hand. Honorable Makase, I'm also noting your hand. Yeah, okay, no problem. So those are the 4 hands in that order, honorable members.
Thank you, my Chair, and thank you, Mr. Ngomalo, for your presentation. I think the PCC is a critically important group, and I think it would be a good idea, Chair, if we can get a briefing from them on the state of South Africa and the climate risk and threat that we're facing. But that's not my point I'd like to make. I'd like to ask 2 very quick questions. First is, and sorry if I missed this, Mr. Ngomalo, but the timeline for the PCC to become a public entity, what does that look like at the moment? And then the second is the commissioners, I see they're appointed for a term. However, with this changeover of government after the elections, there are now 13 ministers who are commissioners, 13 ministers from the 6th administration. Some of them are ministers but have shifted portfolios. Some of them are no longer ministers. There are new ministers in some of those portfolios. So I just wanted to find out from the government representatives on the commissioners list, are they appointed as an office or are they appointed as individual people? And will the new ministers in those relevant portfolios be appointed to the commission now that we have a new government in place? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable de Block. Honorable Manaka.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair, and greetings to all the attendees who are in this meeting this afternoon. I read the report that was published by the PCC. In one of the sentences, it says the multiple efforts by social partners to respond to the transition are uneven and uncoordinated. I just want to find out from Mr. Ngumalo if this framework that they've developed is satisfying the gap that they've identified. And he also indicated that they also do the stakeholder involvement. With this involvement or participation, I just want to find out if they were conducted, where were they conducted? And were they in the form of public hearings or public participation? If yes, where and when, and who did they engage? Mr. Ngumalo, do our communities understand this term, just transition? I just want to find out from them. What are the risks that will result from this just transition and the implications of this transition? And how will our people benefit from this JT, Mr. Ngumalo? Honorable member, I don't know if whether it's just going to be the just transition, because we are having a feeling that it will leave behind millions of our people out of jobs and compromising energy sustainability in the meantime. And the other question, Mr. Ngumalo, what are you doing as the Commission to increase the provincial and local capacity in order to promote local economic development? And what are you doing to equip the South Africans as the Commissions, especially the vulnerable groups, your women, our youth, our people living with disabilities, as actually all the marginalized groups? I thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Manaka. You just close your curtain, because it was difficult for us to see you.
Okay.
I'm just cautioning you so that next time when you speak, you are clear.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Honorable Nalumango.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to everyone on the platform. This afternoon, I've just got a few questions. But just first, Chair, I think a concern. I have looked through our WhatsApp groups as well as the emails and thought perhaps I have missed this particular presentation having been sent to us. If we could be furnished with this presentation, because, now we're on gadgets, we are online, and we are just seeing the presentation for the first time. We have not received such a presentation, so that we familiarize ourselves with the presentation and then come with, with a proper questions, etc., and interact properly with the presentation that was presented by Mr. Ngumalo. Chair, if we could also be furnished with the Just Transition Framework, if that document could be made available to us, as well as the Komati decommissioning report, because as Mr. Ngumalo was saying, is that there will be future decommissioning projects, and we should then be able to use the Komati decommissioning report, as an example, in terms of what to look at when we are dealing with future decommissioning reports. Then, Chair, I would just like to be clarified on the current status of the operational budget of the PCC, as well as whether the personnel and the planned programs and whether they will migrate to DFFE, and what are the transition plans. And I have seen, there was a question that I had about whether PCC and DFFE approach National Treasury, but I think under the listing slide in the presentation, I think Mr. Numalo mentioned that as at number one, that they still going to meet, the DGGs are going to meet with National Treasury. So I think that one, that question, I will no longer pose it. It was answered. But if Mr. Numalo can answer, please, my other questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nalumango. Honorable Makasi.
Chair, thank you very much. I see you are having scarves there. It's very cold in Cape Town. It's nice and warm where I am. Chair, I actually have maybe one or two questions, but I would want to first welcome the presentation by Mr. Ngumalo. And I think when he was presenting, it sounded like there is already duplication of effort in their work. For an example, how will the research and the policy unit be different from what the climate change and the air quality branch is already doing, such as mitigation, adaptation, and resilience? And I think initially the second one is the Presidential Climate Finance Task Team that was responsible for the climate mobilization was already there. Now, what I want to check is, has that function been now officially transferred to the commission, or is things are still standing as they are? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Makasi. I do not see any other hand. Just one question from my side, Mr. Ngumalo. Can you just tell us how much progress have the Commission and the department made on the regulations of the Climate Change Act? Yeah, I think other members have already covered some of the questions that I've noted. Thank you. You may respond, Mr. Ngumalo, and those who are with you may also assist you.
Yes, no, thank you very much, Chair. Indeed, I will divert some of the questions to the colleagues who've joined me on the call. Just to note that Mr. Blessing Manale did share the list of members that have joined us from the PCC. I'm not sure if you're happy if I keep the video off, Chair.
Yes, you can switch it off. You can, yeah, we can keep it off, Mr. Ngumalo.
Okay, no, that's fair. Around the briefing from Honorable Block, we are happy to do that briefing. We'll certainly prepare a dedicated presentation for that and organize through Ms. Chilega to essentially deliver that presentation to the Portfolio Committee. Thank you for that opportunity. And then in terms of the timelines for PCC listing, I will respond to that as well as the appointment of the government ministers. And then related to Honorable Manaha's question around the State of Climate Action report, I would like my colleague, Ms. Yuri Ramkisson, to basically respond to that. But before she does, I will ask also Blessing to provide just a framing response, which will also include responses to questions around where we've been in terms of our stakeholder engagements, whether communities understand the just transition framework and how will people benefit from the just transition, the energy sustainability question, as well as the provincial and local capacity work that we are doing, or capacitation work that we are doing, and how we are doing with the vulnerable groups. And then we'll to Honorable Nalmango will share the presentation. In fact, we had shared it already anyway with Ms. Chilega. We'll share it again, and then the just transition framework as well as the Komati decommissioning reports. And then the status of operational budget of the PCC, I'll respond to that. And the difference between the work that the PCC is doing and what the DFFE is doing. I think we can also benefit from some complementary response from the DDG at DFFE, Mr. Maisela Kekana, which will then also cover that as the PCC. And then the question around the transition, I think I'll respond broadly to that as well, including the progress from you, Chair, around the regulations that I'll also respond to, but also appreciate some complementary response from the DDG there again. Just to start from the end, we have, Chair, we are in the process of actually appointing a service provider to support. In fact, the department is in the process of appointing the service provider to support with the regulation development linked to the Climate Change Act. But as a broader step to that, the department is actually busy with the work of defining how they will implement or operationalize the Climate Change Act as it has been promulgated into law. And that's essentially an implementation plan of the Act, which Mr. Kekana can also speak to in a little bit more detail. But we are in the process as it relates to the PCC regulations of getting a service provider to basically assist us with that process. And as it relates to the transition, if I can just join the two questions to get from Honorable Makas and Honorable Member Andrew de Block around the timelines for establishing the PCC and the transition question. We are looking, Chair, at the minimum, at least from our operational level discussions, we are looking at a minimum of 2 years to achieve the listing process, and that is owing to a number of different processes that needs to unfold. For instance, once we've finalized and once the DFF has finalized and submitted the business case for the establishment of the PCC, that business case still needs to be subjected to the GTEC process of the National Treasury, which is an entity within Treasury that basically would need to assess the costing of that business plan to make sure that it's compatible with the state's capacity to can implement such a business case and establish the PCC as Schedule 3 entity along or at least in line with that proposed business case. And then that will still also be subjected to the DPSA National Treasury convened committee, which will then do the assessment as I spoke to in step 3, as well as then thereafter do the approval. And then once that approval has been obtained from that committee, we'll still need to subject the listing process to cabinet for approval, as well as then the parliamentary processes, which will also include this committee. So if when we mapped that overall process, Chair, we agreed that a minimum of 2 years is a safe space or a safe timeline that we can work with. As it relates to the question around appointment of ministers, Chair, the honorable member is correct in that the appointment of ministers was on the portfolio, so it was on their official capacities. It was not on their individual capacities. So as they change portfolios, we then write them, letters to basically inform them that since they've taken over a particular portfolio, they must be aware that they've been also appointed to the commission. We had done so, Chair, when the cabinet was amended in the previous administration. At this point, Chair, we are also seeking, some legal guidance to say how do we deal with vacancies as they are in the commission, and the commission itself will also discuss this question in the upcoming commission meeting on the 13th of September. Because, Chair, not only are we now, sitting between the Climate Change Act facing, being promulgated or centered into law, but also sitting with the question of the term of office, whether we end the term of office of commissioners now and appoint new commissioners as per the bill, as per the Climate Change Act, or we let the current term of office of commissioners lapse, and then we only appoint once the act has been proclaimed into law. So we are seeking some legal guidance on that. But in terms of the interim process, the current appointment process stands. which is the appointment of the portfolio ministers, not necessarily ministers in their personal capacities. And then the question around the status of operational budget for PCC. Chair, we share our finances through our annual report review, but suffice to say that as it stands now, we're sitting with a current an allocation of at least 22.5 million from the National Treasury, and that is what we get as part of the budget vote of the Department of Employment and Labour, which is then apportioned to the PCC. That is the current public financing that we are receiving. We also do mobilize different resources from our donors, and we're happy to share with the committee if needs be, the various donor allocations that we have. Chair, let me then hand over to my colleagues to speak to, for instance, to Mr. Manale, to speak to the stakeholder engagement part and preface the State of Climate Action report so that Ms. Yuri Ramkisson can also speak to the question around the uneven and uncoordinated aspects. Mr. Manale, over to you, through you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nxumalo. I just wanted to put on my face for members that might not have seen me when I introduced myself earlier, but I'll switch it off again. Indeed, those are very pertinent questions. I'm quite happy that the members have asked the question. On the issue of the state of awareness, the Presidential Climate Commission has commissioned a number of studies in the literally last year and linking up to also the State of Climate Action report. And the latest report we'll be releasing is a report by the Human Sciences Research Council on attitude towards climate change and the state of climate awareness. And it's an empirical scientific report that basically shows varying levels of awareness, communities being awareness about the impacts, but some not knowing what needs to happen. And then other reports has been the state of the newsroom that looks into how the media has been covering climate change, which was done by SANEF and a number of partners. The Center for Behavioral Analytics gave us some studies on social media trends, misinformation, and then we also did one study with local government on how communities were engaging with the concept. And all those studies gave us a baseline to develop a just transition awareness and communication strategy, which we presented in our commission meeting in February and in June. And we're basically finalizing, and it's a multi-communication partnership. So it is not a strategy that would be implemented by the commission alone. It will have to be implemented by DFFE, by Department of Transport, by mining companies. So it's actually a national communication partnership, similar to what the country has been good at, whether it was on HIV, on COVID, or on waste, or on xenophobia. And we've used that kind of a modeling campaign to say, how can we use the 4 reports to then deliver a nationwide campaign? And I think that allowing, we should be able to give honorable members a fair update once the finalized strategy has gone through to a mission of the kind of outreach and awareness that we want to do. And we think that it's in tandem with the work of your constituencies and where you come from. But secondly, on engagement, we have at the start of our work insisted that engagement and social compacting and transparency would be the core of our work. All our commission meetings are live streamed. As Dumisani has said, we've got certain constituencies being allowed, space allowing to sit physically into the meeting without speaking rights. But specifically the communities we've consulted in Limpopo, in Vembe, Lephalale, KZN, in Durban South, the Northern Cape, in Kuruma, and Appington, and Kimberley, in Mpumalanga, in all the 3 regions, the 3 districts, mainly focused on the coal belt, Gauteng in the Vaal because of issues of pollution and air quality, and the Eastern Cape, both in Tolobeng and Gqeberha, both on mining opportunities, what the just transition mean for green minerals, but also what we have said about supporting Gqeberha from the auto sector and climate resilience in that metro. We know that we have limited access. We have not been able to do work with the Free State, the Western Cape, and the Northwest, but we've done some work with through community radio. We've actually invested a lot of our communication spent in those provinces and regions that we don't go. That is not enough, honorable members, and we think that we need a much more massive communications campaign and working with youth, with labor, because the levels of knowledge, as honorable members have asked, it's invariable. And you've got communities and you've got issues that are actually highly contested. And I'll quickly come to the issue of consensus, which was raised earlier about the Just Transition Framework, and then hand over. We've had a situation whereby you'd go to Mpumalanga, you'd have environmental NGOs raising strong issues about pollution, about water. You'd at the same meeting have workers raising issues about social protection, about job losses. So ours is to make sure that we not pit communities and against communities. So when we facilitate those dialogues, we always raise the issues of the risks, the opportunities, the need for partnerships to make sure that there is a win-win situation. And it's quite difficult because there are competing interests and people have got varying experiences to both the impacts and the opportunities of climate change. But as all in all, it's about rolling out a massive communication and awareness strategy and campaign in South Africa that's underwritten by multiple partnerships. We'll never have the resources, both in the state and in the commission, to drive such a campaign. And then in terms of specifically I think it was Honorable De Blok asked about the ministers. And let me start by apologizing and explain the kind of quagmire we're in. So on the website, we've kept the ministers because legally the president has not written to the ministers to say that we are not members of the commission. And that has created quite a number of confusion. So we'd be doing immediately, putting up all those ministers as former commissioners, because the current act does not allow ministers to be commissioners. But on the other hand, the regulations have not been there. So we'll probably put up as past commissioners. But specifically, those ministers were nominated and communicated to the secretary of the commission as having been appointed by the president. And our assessment was it's a mixture of chairing specific clusters, but also because they were the obvious ministries, either in the mitigation or adaptation side. But the current information, as you see on the website, it's purely administrative. But the act, the new act says that the commission must, actually, it does not give us an option. It says the commission must invite the ministers of the affected departments, but it has actually removed them as commissioners. And the dialogues were about whether you need government to sit in the commission, social partners saying that they are referee and player. So I guess it was the give and take of the process of drafting the bill. And the consultations finally were in various forms. We'd have community meetings, we'd have focus meetings with for example, youth, with environmental NGOs. We'd do capacity building with workers at, for example, in the power stations. But we use a lot of community radio, and in the development of the bill, actually the commission went with the previous portfolio committee in canvassing the bill to also listen. So we've also been using other platforms as well as the DDMs and the previous IMBIZOs to go where government goes, because we do not have the muscle to continue to convene our communities when they're actually looking for opportunities. Let me stop there, and I hope I've done some justice to the questions. But I'm ready for follow-up questions. But as I said, the underlying factors, would love to share the awareness campaign when it's ready in a month or two, and mobilize all our constituencies behind it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Manale.
Yeah. Through you, Chair, I thought we'll also get a complementary response from the DDG just on the questions of the bill and the work that we are doing on between DFFE and the PCC, which Mr. Manale has also alluded to. Thank you.
Noted. DDG?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to you and honorable members, and to our colleagues from the PCC. Good to see them on the screen. Yeah, just to indicate that the most important thing for now is to conclude the business case for the PCC, because this is key to turning the PCC into Schedule 3A entity, and there's a long process for that once we've agreed on the business case, because both National Treasury and DPSA would then have to finalize that, and including the issues of detailed costing and so forth. So that is the work that we are currently engaged in. But we are also engaged with the PCC as well around the issue of regulations. That is also key. I also agree with a lot of what members have said, particularly around the understanding of the community around the issues of just transition, because currently what we find to be a status quo is that people associate just transition with coal mine closures and ESCOM decommissioning its power stations, which just transition is not about. It should not be about that. It's broader. Hence, there's 11 ministers that are affected when it comes to the issues of just transition. So we're engaging with Mr. Blessing in terms of how to familiarize this, because what we can see clearly is that people are more familiar with the changes in the climatic system or the term climate change. But when it comes to the core mandate of the Commission, which is the just transition, there's not been that understanding. But those are some of the things that we continue to engage with the PCC on. And we also try as much as possible to avoid the issues of duplication, which necessarily should not arise, because the work of the Commission is to advise government in affected areas. It's not necessary to duplicate the work of the government, but to provide a sound advice to government as it drafts and complete its policies and plans. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DDG Kekana. I do not see any follow-up questions or hands for follow-up questions. Members, I guess you are happy with the responses.
Chair, this is
Yuri,
Yuri
want to
from
say something?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Yuri.
was supposed to follow up on the question about the State of Climate Action Report. Just to note that the Climate Action Report was not prescriptive in recommendations. It was more of a diagnostic or findings report. However, there is a lot of work being done within the PCC and with the DFFE to try and coordinate, some of the work. The minister and the rest of his team is aware of the problems that we've raised. We think that maybe with the new cabinet and interministerial committees, the work, will be more aligned. We're doing a lot of work in terms of local government to try and assist with their climate change responses. And also within the PCC, especially during our commissioner meetings, once the new commissioners are appointed, I hope that we will be able to present the report again to them, and they can take note of the fact that there are sort of uncoordinated policies that need to be more well coordinated. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Yuri. Okay, I don't see any hands. Before we release you, PCC, Mr. Ngumalo, will you please share the report on the external funding that the PCC has received to date? We would like to have an insight also of that report as the committee members. We will also create a space as the committee so that the PCC can provide a detailed briefing on the State of Climate Action Report, just transition framework, and climate finance and just transition, energy transition. So, but that will probably happen in the fourth term. But we will make sure that we create that space for the PCC to come and present those reports. I would like to take this opportunity and thank all of you for availing yourselves, and we shall meet again. Thank you very much also, DDG. and your team. Yeah, thank you. You are released.
Thank you very much, Chair, and we'll certainly deliver as committed. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair.
Nguman, can you tell us when can we get the report on the funding, the external funding? Must we give you a week, or can it be available tomorrow?
We will try and make it available, Chair, tomorrow. We just need to finalize with our fiscal host so that we present, the necessary and the correct numbers. I mean, we have tabled these numbers to the Commission and to the Finance and Working Group. It's a matter of giving you the right memo.
Sure. Okay then. Okay. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day further.
Thank you, Chair. Likewise. Bye.
Chair,
Hi, Chair.
yes, the presentation by the Presidential Climate Commission Chair, it is on our WhatsApp group.
Yes,
I dropped it off
thought I was going to
yesterday.
raise that. I'm sorry. Yes, I thought I was going to raise that. In fact, I communicated with Honorable Nalumango on WhatsApp that it was shared yesterday.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
apologies for that. Yeah, maybe it was
No
just an
problem, Chair.
oversight from her side.
Thank you.
Can
Chair.
we then move to yes?
Honorable Marcus. The
Hi,
other thing
Honorable Marcus.
I wanted to raise with Aboki is that I think they should now stop using our Gmail accounts when they send us issues of the portfolio, because now our Parliament emails are up and running and working. Now it's confusing that I must go to my phone and must go to the laptop. So I would just request that they now use our Parliament emails for portfolio work. Thank you, Chair.
No
Okay,
problem.
then that is noted. That is noted. Let's move to the second presentation.
Yes, Chair, we Advocate Charmaine.
Over to you, Advocate Charmaine.
Legal Services.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the members. I am going to share my screen. That would be the right one. And then take you through. Okay, it looks to me like you can see it. I hope that is in fact the case.
Yes, we can see, Advocate. We can see, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you what it is that legal services can do for this committee. The presentation that I have sent, and I hope that members have received it, contains all of our services, because I think it is important for you to know what it is that the office does. It gives some perspective when we sometimes say we need so many days, or in some instances when it comes to do the development of bills, so many months. But in the interest of time, I am simply going to focus on what it is that we can do for the committee. So, an overview of our services. First of all, we provide legal advice. Now, legal advice would then, for purposes of what the committee will be asking from us, would be legal compliance and constitutionality. This could include legislation or legal questions arising from oversight exercises. So the committee has gone to visit an entity of the department, and there are some concerns, some things that doesn't feel right, and there's maybe a legal thing. We're not sure how this affected, is there compliance with this act? What is happening here? That kind of question will come to our offices, and we will definitely assist you with that. International agreements. If this committee has some international agreement before it, then that is also something where we can advise and assist the committee. And then, of course, lastly, bills and amendments to bills. So we span the whole mandate, in other words. When it comes to legal advice on bills, this now mainly would be executive bills before the committee, or private members' bills before the committee. In other words, the bill has already been developed, and now the committee has considered public inputs. There are some legal questions raised by the public. That is where we can assist the committee. We will look at those legal questions and provide you with our view. And if the committee wants to make any amendments to legislation that is before it, we can definitely assist with that as well. Then we also do legal drafting. And in this instance, we will then be able to assist this committee with committee bills. In other words, this committee wants to develop legislation. We can advise whether this is something that would take very, very long, because sometimes like one committee, we are looking at about 126 clauses, which I think will make it very difficult for that committee to do other work as well, because a committee bill is very time intensive. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of discussion, a lot of development inside and outside of a committee. So we can advise on that, as well as help the committee to actually develop that legislation. So we need a policy, and my other slides will also speak to that, and then I will go a bit faster over them. But we'll need a policy, and there we will be looking to your content advisors, your researchers, to help you develop the policy that will inform your bill. And then once we have that policy and you are happy with that policy, we can then put it into legislation for you. We also, like I said, assist with the amendments or the redrafting of executive bills. And then the last thing we do is to empower committees to do committee bills. And in what we do there is we look at court judgments, especially the Constitutional Court, but also the High Court. We look at academic articles. And if we find that there is some concern with legislation, it could even come from a member, it could come from a petition, where we can see if there's a gap in legislation, we will then do an opinion on that, and we will bring that to this committee and say, look, we have found this gap in the law or this mistake in the law, and this could be a committee bill. Or that opinion can be used to strengthen your oversight over the department. It might be something where you say, no, but this is not the type of thing that we think should be in a committee bill. There's a lot of policy development required. It will take up too much of our time, but we do think the department needs to address this because this is an important issue. And then that will be something that you can handle through oversight. So it can either strengthen your legislative mandate or your oversight mandate. So that is the other aspect of what we do. Our bills office will be publishing your reports. So that is where they do the ATC, the announcements, tablings, and committee reports. They will be the ones who will tell you in that ATC when a bill is introduced, when it's referred to you. And then when you report on that bill, your bill will be published in that ATC. And if you adopt a bill, they will then do the final editing. The second language will be done by our languages unit or by the state law advisor, depending on the type of bill, and they will do the editing of that second language of the bill as well. Then we also have litigation management. Here, it will be less applicable to you, but we may have a case that has challenges one of your decisions. We may have a case that challenges a bill passed by you. And in that instance, then our office will be consulting with especially the chairperson to ascertain exactly what happened so that we have all the facts, and then we will keep you abreast of what is happening, because sometimes litigation, is a learning curve for us. Someone challenges something and we then learn from what the courts guidance that the court provide, what is expected and how we can improve on what we do. So I lastly so that is an overview of what we do, but I want to just zone in a little bit on our operating procedures. So we now have a legal question. How do you proceed with that? What happens? So you will be submitting this to the, sorry, I skipped a slide there. You will be submitting this to our chief legal advisor. That's what the CLA stands for. And here we provide you with the relevant email address. It's a dedicated email address for new instructions. So this is where your request will go. And then keep in mind that we request 7 working days turnaround time. So that's why I said I'm going to give you all the work that we do so that there's some perspective, so that you understand why we ask for 7 days. Now, the request goes to a legal advisor. There will be an engagement if we need some clarity. We'll get all the documents together, and we will then record when our target date is. That can be confirmed with you. If you are in a hurry, we could do it shorter, but it's not preferred. It creates legal risks. But then we conduct an analysis of the request and do the research, and we draft the advice. Now, all our advice that comes to you will be subject to a quality check. There will also be a final approval. In fact, there's 2 steps of quality. It will go to a senior legal advisor and thereafter to the chief legal advisor. And then we submit it to you. So you can always be assured that there's an office position that is provided to you. It's not just the view of a single legal advisor. It may happen that in instances the chief legal advisor is perhaps not available to sign off, and then another senior advisor will be checking on that opinion. On legislative drafting, we request at least 3 months to develop the first draft. It sounds very long, but it's actually very short. The department will also indicate to you when they bring their executive bills. It sometimes takes years to get that first draft out. So the better the policy is developed, the faster we can provide you with a draft. With our draft, we will not only consider what you want amended, we will also consider how that impacts on the rest of the law that we're amending, as well as other laws. And that is why it takes a bit of time. There's a lot of legal research that happens when we draft. So there will be an evaluation process, engagement. You will see from the process, there's a lot of consultation when we develop legislation for you, because it's not our bill, it is your bill. So when we develop something, there will be a lot of consultation with the committee on what should be in there, how things should be worded, because a tiny change in wording can make such a big difference. So once we know what it is that you want us to put in the bill, we will commence the drafting. There may be multiple drafts because we will be consulting with you throughout, finalizing the draft bill. And again, we have a 2-step. There will be a peer review as well as a quality control process. So there's 2 steps to make sure that you get a deliverable of very high quality. We also assist on the certification of the bill to make sure that there's a rules and constitutional compliance. Further, we will assist members in the publication of private members' bills and advise on proposed classification. And then, as I said before, we will consider gaps in the statute book, and there we will assist you and empower you either in your legislative mandate or in your oversight mandate. Bills and acts, I'm not going to go through this again. I've indicated to you as the bill is introduced, this is where it happens. The Bills Office deals with the ATC, your reports, and your final bill will all be announced in the ATC. I'm not going to go through that more, but it's valuable. You have this if you want to see more what they do. I'm also not going to go through the litigation management more. Like I say, if it affects your committee, we will be consulting with you and we will be giving you some feedback so that you know what's going on and we can learn from any mistakes that we've made. Then here is the first slide with our team. We've got a mixed bunch. We've got expertise in various fields of law. And there's another bunch of us, the rest of us. And I think, let me just show you 2 faces. I think that is important. This is our chief, Advocate Adhikari. So if there's any issue, in fact, if there's any challenge with the legal advisor in your committee, please approach her and discuss it with her. We do take pride in what we do, and if there's any concern, we want that to be addressed. Then this is myself. I'm one of the senior legal advisors. I'm responsible for drafting. Advocate Jenkins, he is responsible mainly for assisting committees on bills and for institutional support. Mr. Njikela is mainly responsible for litigation, and Dr. Mbata is from our bills office. So if there's any interaction on your ATC, you are more likely to be dealing with the bills office than with legal services, in fact, because of the ATC that they do for you. And then These are also our contact details, so you will have everything there, the dedicated lines for contacting us, and general inquiries. If you do not get a response from us, sometimes Outlook just doesn't do what it should be doing. We've been actually having a lot of problems with emails just not coming through. Please contact Advocate Pierre, and she will also then try and assist you. There's also an office number that you can use to get hold of us. Then just lastly, on the presentation that's been given to you, you will see on the last slide, there is this funny little QR code. If you take a photo of this with your phone, it will give you a link. And if you go to that link, there's a little brochure of what Legal Services does. And it might be, there's a couple of terms that you might come across in your committee. So it is quite a useful little brochure that you are welcome to have a look at. Thank you, Chairperson. I try to keep it as short as possible. That is our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Advocate van der Merwe. Members, that is the presentation, nice, clear and short. I would like to check whether you would like to get some clarity, second questions, or the presentation is clear. I don't see any hands. It's clear, Advocate. Your presentation was clear. Thank you very much. We do not have any questions. We would like to thank you for availing yourself to come and do your presentation in this portfolio committee. Honorable Diplo just wrote very clear. Oh, thank you very much. Members are also concurring with me that the presentation was very clear. Thank you, Advocate. You can be released.
Thank you very much, Chair. And again, thank you for the opportunity. Have a good day. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Chilega?
Yes,
Can you
Chairperson?
flight the agenda? Can you flight the agenda again, my sister?
Okay. That was the chair for the day.
Okay, that was it for the day. Honorable Nalumango, can you give us an honor and do closing remarks for us?
Thank you, Chair. Let me close my video because I see there's a presentation that's there. Let me take this opportunity, Chair, to thank, and because it's our last day of induction, I know that, every day we had closing remarks, but let me just take this opportunity to thank our honorable members, including our members of our executive, our minister and our two deputy ministers, and also thank the department and all the entities that came to present their various presentations. I must say from my side, we had a very interactive and informative induction, and my knowledge, I must say, were expanded these past 2.5 days. And as members, we understand that we need to play our oversight role and ensure that goals that are set out by the executive and the department are met, and we need to ensure that there's accountability, we need to ensure that there's transparent governance, and we need to work together from the committee side as well as the executive and the department to ensure that we get a, I know yesterday the DG said, that our last term we had an unqualified report, but, from our side as committee members who plays oversight, we would like to see a clean audit outcome. So I think together we will be able to achieve that. Thank you to the Presidential Climate Commission, Mr. Numalo and Manale, and from our Legal Services Advocate for availing yourselves today. and your presentation, which was very informative. We will await the information that we've requested to come through to us. And thank you, Chair, for doing a sterling job yourself. And thank you to all honorable members. Thank you.
You forgot to thank the staff that that made sure that we have this
Yes.
induction. Our people, Chile, Kantla, Darren, all of them. Let me thank them on your behalf, Honorable Nalomango. Thank you very much, members, and also Chi and all the Dantla, Darren, and all us support staff that are with us in the meeting, in this meeting. Thank you very much, members. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank
Thank you.
Our next meeting is on Tuesday.
Is it
What
Thank
virtual
you
or
very much. Have
This is
a
virtual
virtual.
or
weekend.
physical?
Members can
Chinega?
decide. I'll be guided by members, Chair.
We will come back to you.
On the
Okay.
WhatsApp group. We need to vote. Let's have a vote on our WhatsApp group.
Okay.
We'll vote on the
Okay.
WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
members.
you. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Recording stopped.